So in the previous video, we went over and found out how to use variables, how to create them. And in this video, we should go over what the basic data types are in Python. And these are very important to know because these are the building blocks of Python. We need to know how to convert these types, how to tell the program that text is text, and how numbers are numbers. And to get started, we're going to go ahead and go over the basic data types. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create a comment by providing a hash and typing in basic data types. Anything we write after the hash is going to be ignored by the compiler, which means you can write whatever you want here, some useful information that will help you remember how your program functions. So right there, I just added a comment, and the first one I want to go over is what they call a string. A string is any form of text or numbers that are inside quotation marks. So inside here you can do 123, you can write the name Mario, you can write whatever you want in there, as long as it's inside quotation marks. And they can even be double quotation marks if that's what you want. I prefer the single because I think it looks more clean and I just got used to that, but you can decide for yourself which one you want to use. Next we have what they call integers, and that's just any whole number. So we can go ahead and type in 123, and as you can see, it's highlighted in blue this time. And that's because it is an integer. And you can even do minus 200 if you want. It's any whole number. But for this example, we will leave it at 100. And then we have what they call a float. And a float is just a fancy term for decimal number. So if you want to type in 1.5, this is going to be a float just because it has a decimal. So we can do 1.9, we can do 0.5 if you want, and that will be perfectly fine. But we're going to leave this at 10.5. And another thing I forgot to mention, Python knows which data type you're using just because it can infer it. And in other programming languages such as Java or C++, you have to go ahead and actually tell the program that this is a float and this is an integer. That's why Python is considered to be so simple. It's because you can skip a lot of that very technical stuff and you can get right into using the programming language. So for example, in Java, you'll do something more like that, float, decimal, and then blah, blah, blah. But in Python, we just have to write the data type, such as 10.5. But moving on, another data type we need to be aware of is the Boolean, which can either come in a true state or a false state. And the fun thing about Booleans is that false is equal to 0 and true is equal to 1. So we can actually do some stupid stuff such as print out true plus 1, and you're going to get the answer of 2, as you can see down here. And if we do false plus 1, it's going to equal 1 because false is equal to 0. And a cool way to verify this is just to type in integer of false, and you're going to get 0, and the integer of true is going to be 1. So it's just a constant that we're going to be using in many scenarios that just tells the program whether something should pass or something shouldn't pass, because deep down the computers are based on ones and zeros, so it's just common knowledge that this is going to be 1 and 0. But the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and print all the types. So let's print the type of text, and if you do Control plus D or Command plus D, you can actually duplicate the line. And here we're going to add the number. Inside here we'll add the decimal, and finally here we're going to add the Boolean. Now when we click on run, you're going to see it's going to tell us the type of each one of these variables. So the first one is type string, second is integer, third one is float, and the fourth one is a Boolean. But now we can get rid of those because there are a few other data types we have to go over. The next one is going to be the list, and these are very important because they allow us to create lists of items, such as, let's pretend we want to make a shopping list. We just type in apples, comma, milk, comma, and carrots. And it's that simple to create a list. Later on in this course, I'll show you how we can use these lists, of course, but it's just important you know that this is a list. And you create it by creating angle brackets around the list of items you want. Later on, you can go ahead and add stuff to the list, such as, let's pretend we forgot to add eggs. We can just go food.append eggs. And let's pretend we don't want apples, so we can go ahead and type in food.remove, and we just type in apples. Then we can go ahead and print the food, and we're going to get a list of milk, carrots, and eggs, because we told the program we want to remove the apples from this list, and that we want to add the eggs to this list. But let's go ahead and remove that. and just print the normal list, and it's going to look like that. Next, we have something that's very similar to a list, and it's called a tuple, and it's spelled just like that. And a tuple is the same thing as a list, but it is immutable, which means we cannot touch it, we cannot change it. It's always going to be the same. Once we create it, it's done. We can't add items, we can't remove items. It's just a very fixed way of adding items. So for example, if we create a tuple of animals, this time we create it by creating parentheses, we can add cats, dogs, and a horse. Why not? Or I guess horses. But this time we can't go ahead and type animals.append or animals.remove because this is immutable. We cannot change anything here. But let's go ahead and print the animals, just like that. And you're going to notice down here, we're going to have the parentheses with the items inside, and that just makes us understand that it is a tuple. So one thing I'm going to mention now is that to access items, we just need to refer to their index. And in programming, for a majority of cases, indexing is going to start at 0, 1, and then 2. Instead of in normal life where we count from 1, 2, 3, in programming it's mostly 0, 1, 2. So if we want to access cats, we do animals at the index of 0, and when we print the statement, we're going to get the element, which is cats. And we can do the same thing for animals too, and we're going to get horses. We can also go ahead and print the food at the index of 1, which should be this one over here, and it's going to give us milk. So that's just a cool way to access elements from these lists and tuples. Up next, we have a set, which is an unordered list of items that does not hold duplicates. So later on, you'll find some very useful scenarios for sets because they just get rid of extra unnecessary info. So if we go ahead and create a test set, we can type in curly brackets, and here we're going to add a Boolean, which is 1.0. We're going to write hello. We're going to add a tuple of 1, 2, 3, why not? And then we're going to add the element of hello again. And as you can see, I mentioned hello 2 times in the set, but the program is smart enough to say, hey, this is a set, we're going to get rid of one of those hellos. So we can go ahead and print the test set, and you're going to notice we will only have 3 elements in there, even if we have specified 4. And we can also go ahead and add to this test set. We can say, for example, Udemy. And when we print the test set, it's going to insert it at a random location inside this test set. Every time we rerun the program, you're going to notice the items are going to be in different orders, which means we cannot index the items because whatever we get is going to be in a random place, which means the index of 0, one time is going to be 1.0, the next time is going to be hello, and another time it can be something else. So we can't index them, but we can retrieve the entire list by itself. But it's just good to know what it is, because one day you will bump into it, and it's going to just be a big relief to be able to use it without thinking. So let's go ahead and comment the print statement out, because we've come to the final data type that we're going to cover in this course, and this is the dictionary. So we're just going to add a comment, and the first thing we want to do is create a dictionary of people. So the first thing we're going to create is Mario, and this is going to be a dictionary of professions. So Mario is going to be a chef, and Luigi is going to be a barista. So the concept of dictionaries is that you have a key and a value pair, which means first comes the key and then the value that you want to store inside the key. So Mario is the key and chef is the value. And when we go ahead and print these people, you're going to notice we will get the exact same thing we wrote over here. To access a person, we can go ahead and type in people, but this time we need to insert the key. So Mario is the key, which means once we print Mario, we're going to get chef as the answer. And in the majority of cases, you'll probably have other keys such as 0 and 1. So now we can just go ahead and type in 1, and we're going to get barista. And 0 is going to be the key that's assigned to chef. And dictionaries are very important because they are very useful for APIs and JSON data. It's very easy to read them and to extract information from them. And we're going to be covering that in a few of the projects in this course, so don't worry, we'll get to that later. But with that being said, we've covered the basic data types that we need to know to use Python efficiently. And in the next video, we're going to be covering type conversion.